Welcome to the Coming Clean podcast with your host, 𝗬𝗓𝗦𝗧𝗏.
Hit a dash in my position, you will never last. Real talk, I had to get it from the mall. Real talk, now I'm vibing with a bankroll. Cash.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coming Clean Podcast, Season 2. And today we have with us the great 𝗦𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 player, NFL player, American Ninja Warrior, and the first NFL athlete to hit the buzzer, feature on 6 national TV brands, a 7-figure gym owner, a 6-figure consultant, international keynote speaker, best-selling author, global coach, and happily married to his high school sweetheart with 3 amazing, beautiful children. What a life.
You got it all, man. I'm trying to think of anything you missed. I own a bunch of shoes.
Anthony, how are you? And thank you for being with us today.
Oh, I'm great, man. Thank you for having me. Seriously.
You know, I've been following you on social media, and I really love the work that you're doing today. You know, your identity shift is something that is very much needed today in trying times. You know, I think that we have an identity crisis.
We do.
You know, many people are out there not only confused by what's going on in the world, but also with the plethora of information that we've been getting in the last few years through social media, through Google, through every source of information, people are really don't know who they are or what they're becoming. And I looked into your program, and I'm very interested about it. But we're gonna go into it dive deep into it. But tell us where you at today. What do you do today, and how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long, open-ended question. So what I do today is I teach mostly entrepreneurs, business owners, and network marketers how to upgrade how they operate as human beings so they can elevate their life and business. And that's pretty much make more income, make more true impact in the world, and gain more notoriety. So they're known as like the person, right? And that happens through, it happens through a process I use, but it happened because it's my life for the most part, right? So you asked how I got here. There's a lot of ways. And I think the root for me was like living my life. Like most people do, I broke my life. Like we all just get to a point of like, we're trying things and we break it. And so I grew up in foster care. I was given away at 3. I grew up in an all-white family, a lot of identity issues growing up as a kid, trying to navigate like the murky waters of like, who is Anthony, right? It's a big question. Who the hell am I half the time? And, you know, I ended up being horrible at sport, got better at it. Football was my sport, got a college scholarship, got to go to college, had my first son at 20 years old. So now I'm this kid who's in college. My mom was diagnosed with MS. I got this kid. I'm with my high school sweetheart. I meet my real dad in college. Like all these weird things go through. And then after college, I get a chance to play in the NFL, man, which is amazing. Now I'm one of the best in the world at this sport, and everything's on high. And you think it's like, oh, life's going to be amazing until it ends. And then it's not. I tore my shoulder playing against the Philadelphia Eagles, and life came crashing down, man. So if you haven't noticed it, I've navigated a whole lot of different identity crises. Like you've already talked about, we're in the middle of one. This has been my life. So at 20, I think it was like 24, 25, I'm now out of the NFL. I'm trying to find out who Anthony is again. I have 2 more kids with my wife. So I have 3 kids now, twins. And man, like I have this like life fell apart. I broke my life. So I started trying to figure out who Anthony was. I dug everything into this gym business, and I was there 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., neglecting my wife, neglecting my kids, neglecting my health, just focusing on the business. I didn't even know anything about business, so that wasn't even going well. And I'd lost this thing that made me, which was football. So I'd lost it all, man. And I got to this bottom where I was like, I don't want to live anymore. Like, I don't want to live. And through a weird turn of events, man, I ended up kind of getting back onto a path to being able to be more productive for society and give back from all the craziness that was my life. I lost my mom, and what it really boiled down to was, statistically, I'm an anomaly. Like as a foster kid, if you look at any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. If you look at the homeless population, over 50% of the homeless population has spent time in foster care. And like less than 1% of us foster kids will ever graduate from college. So I beat these odds. And it was this potential that wasn't there that I was reaching into. I call it the bonus rounds. Like once you beat the level, you're just playing in bonus rounds. Like somehow I beat the level, and it was my mom. Like my mom was the one who kind of saved me from being this crazy bad kid. And then when I lost her, it made me just wisen up. Like, man, I've been floating in life, not reaching my full potential. And here was this woman who had loved me unconditionally, who physically her body wouldn't allow her to reach her full potential. And she passed away at 47. And I was like, man, I'm 30 right now. Like there's a possibility I may not be here as long as I think. And the time I've been here seems fast. Like, what if I'm gone in less time, right? Oh, I don't have time to waste. And so I was like, I got to reach wherever my potential is. And I went in this tear to just fix things. So I figured out like, how do I upgrade who I am? Like my identity to be operating at a level that allows me to be successful in the areas I desire, which was obviously my business. I needed to get that right so I could support myself and my world. I was single at the time, divorced. Then I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to be a better person in a relationship. Because I'd been through other relationships after my wife, and they kept breaking. Like I got to figure out how to be a good, solid human, right? In terms of like how I can be great in a relationship. Then I was like, I got to be a better dad. I was spending more time with other people's kids, training them than my own children. I need to figure out my body, how to get healthy again, and I need to figure out how to be somebody bigger than just the former NFL guy. And so I redirected all of it, and I did that, man. I started building great businesses, and I've made 7 figures in the business. I 3 years later fixed my marriage to where we're now back together 4 years strong in an amazing marriage, man. Love my wife.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Thank you. Great father, present father. Businesses run good. I'm happy and I'm healthy. I get to train and spend time with my son. I get to go on weird TV shows like American Ninja Warrior, like all these cool things. And people hear it and they're like, oh, he must just already got it all, dialed in. Like, no, man, I went through crazy. And so what I do now,
I want to break down the crazy, Anthony. Let's go back to the beginning. What a fascinating story. I want to clarify something. Your mother that passed away at 47, was that your biological mother or that was your foster mother?
My foster mother, which is interesting because she was only like 17 years older than me, but she had my older brother when she was 14. So we have an interesting dynamic in the family.
Well, and that's the reason I asked, because you said, 47 and 30 years old, and that is fascinating. So you were in foster homes until the age of 3.
I was in foster homes until the age of 14.
To the age of 14. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went to foster homes at the age of 3 then, is that correct?
Started at 3, yeah. I was in about 6 different homes. Okay.
And then you finally were adopted by the family that took you in at the age of 6?
Yes.
Okay. Who is this mother that ended up dying of MS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's all white family that takes you in and basically begins. This is your first solid introduction to structure. Is that correct?
You'd be surprised. No.
Okay.
We grew up really poor. My mom and dad, like my first foster dad was not a very good guy, drunk. She remarried a guy and it was a better relationship. But my parents, they're not educated. Like I'm the only person of all the 6 kids of us, I was the only one to get like to graduate from the college, not GED, not continuation. My parents, I think they barely graduated high school. No one went to college. So it wasn't super structured, to be honest. It was very just all over the place. Football was the first thing to give me structure.
What an interesting story, because typically you would correlate, you got into foster home and you became the American dream, right? The foster home fostered you into becoming this American hero, and you perhaps were dealing with all these other internal demons and conflicts that you had not addressed. But actually, foster home was part of your conflicting issues. Yeah,
very much so. It was. It's weird because it was always part of the process and part of the thing I was going in, but at the time you don't know that's what you're in. Like it's normalcy to you. So I kind of was bathed in crazy at a young age. Like and I say it in a sense of there's a statement of a smooth sea makes not a skilled sailor. And so at a young age, I was navigating the rough seas of life, and it became a weird superpower of mine.
But interestingly enough, you were not navigating this rough seas, but at the same time, it looked like you had a purpose, you had a vision. You knew that you wanted to be more than what you had been dealt with in life, because you kept striving for more. Okay.
At 14, yeah, that's what it was. I changed it around.
Okay, so what was it that mindset shifted that you wanted to go to college? And
Yeah,
then,
you know, it's crazy. I told my wife the other day, I'm not a very motivated person. And it's not that people hear that like, what do you mean? You're always doing and going and going. I'm like, but I love process, and I fall in love with the journey more than I feel the emotion every day to get up and kill it. Right. And so for me at 14, what it was I didn't like how I felt about myself. I had this moment in time where I was, my mom was sick. My older brother went off to the military. He was like the rock. Sports wise, like when I went to high school, it's like my second year of football. I went to high school. I sucked at football. And what was worse was like, I didn't fit in with the black kids because I talked like a white kid, and the white kids didn't fit in. And I wasn't different. We had these weird segregations within the school. And so what ended up happening was at my base, I had to find a solidarity. I couldn't find it. And I was checked out, man. I legit was checked out. I was sleeping in class. Nothing was going on. And there was one moment in Mr. Howell's English class. I was in the back right desk. There were two girls sitting next to me, but I had like this park over my head like I was sleeping. And they're talking. They don't know I'm listening. And one girl says to the other girl, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And what's really unique about the moment is simply it was like I got the gift of hearing my excuse for why I was going to check out. I got to hear it out loud and hear how stupid it sounded. I was like, man, that's not how I want to look at my life and say when I'm an older man, like, oh, I was in foster care, so that's why I'm broken. I'm a bad dad. I'm a bad husband. I'm just this criminal, whatever it might be. And it ate me up that day, man. Like I went home and I sat on my bed and I remember like standing up, looking at my mirror that I had, like look at myself dead in the pupils. And this is literally how it happened. I was like, Anthony, you're going to be great. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever done at the time. But I was like, you're going to be great, man. And it was a pivot. It was a decision. And from that point forward, I didn't know what to do. Like there wasn't like, you're going to go do this and do that and go. Like, I was just like, all right, I don't know what to be great at. I know this football thing I liked. Let me go try to be great at that.
you didn't have a plan. You didn't have a plan, and you didn't have any direction.
Nothing. Just started doing things. You know what? My plan was I'm going to look at people who are great and try to do the things they do. That was the plan.
So how do you do that, Anthony, when you're in an environment that has despair and that there's not what you really want? I mean, I come from a very poor background. Okay. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those kids that was able to lift the hood, for lack of a better word. Okay. Yeah. But I was always continuously searching. I was looking, but everything that I saw was not what I wanted. And yes, I used those opportunities as stepping stones to move forward, but I kept looking until eventually there was a crack wide open to allow me to step out of there. And I can tell you, I make this comparison of life that a lot of times we're going, in life we go through storms, but there's a lot of obstacles that get on our way. And those obstacles are basically signals that are telling us to direct ourselves into something else, that we need to pause and look at our lives. But a lot of us are so stubborn because we don't have any direction. We don't have any wisdom. We don't have any instructions. We want to keep going through the storm. And it sounds like that's what you were going through.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still going through storms, man. That's life. But at that time, the storm was, it was like all these perfect storms of me being siloed and to myself. No one was looking out for Aunt, but Aunt. Nobody cared what Anthony was doing, unfortunately. My parents loved me, but they weren't, to be honest, they weren't paying attention to my grades and me going to school. It was like, it was just floating. Hey, just don't go to jail. That's kind of how it worked out. And the only opportunity I would even call it was the one that I created for myself, that I wasn't trying to create. I wasn't trying to go to college, because you asked, when did you decide to go to college? My mom told me, she's like, if you don't get a scholarship, you're not going to college. Like, I'm not going to pay. We can't afford college. I was like, all right, well, and I didn't even have a dream to go. I was like, I'm just going to try to be good at football and see what happens. And it wasn't until my senior year that I got any looks for college. Like it was a weird turn of events of some guy that I played against from a different school in high school, went to a college, who he came back. I threw the football with him. He told his coaches about me. His coaches looked at me. They brought me in. Every other school's heard about me. And then I started getting a bunch of offers. Like that in and of itself, like maybe he hasn't called me that day to get a workout,
But so there must have been something great about you, because you play for the Buccaneers, you play for the Redskins, and you play for the Steelers. So you were not the average Joe.
No. I got good, man. Don't get it twisted. I put in work, bro.
Okay.
No, it was a thing where it just took time.
So tell us how you got good at that. So you you get found, you get seen, okay? Yep. And then how did you become Anthony Trucks?
Man, that's the question my wife and I always ask. We're like, how'd you become you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a weird guy, man. I do. Here's the thing, though. I always have this statement, and it's tied to the work I do. And it's a simplistic baseline of how it works to create who I am. And the statement is, what you create creates you.
Simple. I love that.
It's very simple. And essentially what it is when I was in high school, I had this guy who was skinny. I was a skinny guy, not very confident, not much strength, not very quick. And that off season, after that girl said that, well, I went to work, man. I lived in the weight room. I was on the field catching balls. I was running routes. I was in my house throwing a ball in the air 500 times a day. I had to catch it at 500 times or I wouldn't go to sleep. And so like that was my process. And every single catch, every single rep, I was building a more skilled physical body, but I was also building a more confident internal Anthony. So what happened is I showed up the next year, and if it was me and you, Peter, like, hey, if it's me and you, bro, I'm going to win. I don't care who you are, what you've done, where you came from, but I get to own that this is my W today. And I don't care if you go home crying. That was just my mentality. And I earned it. I owned it. And I bought myself in the moments. And in that mentality, it's how I've approached every next level. When I got to a point of saying, okay, I want to be in the NFL, what do I got to do that no one's going to see? So that when I get in the field, I will fight for me to a tooth and nail where you're not going to beat me. Because you can only get that level of just a confidence and drive when you know you did the work. If you didn't do the work, you can't have the confidence like that. You don't get that chip on the shoulder.
Absolutely. So the muscle you got to build.
Yeah, that's how I built me. And to this day, I do it. There's so much I do in the background nobody sees, but that's why I can show up confident and be like, hey, I'm the guy for this. Let's go to work, right? And I get the thing done because I know I did the work.
So you get to college, you start playing football. How did you get drafted to the NFL? What was your first entry to the NFL?
Well, I didn't get. So I was when it came to like the Buccaneers were the team that loved me, like out of all the teams. But the fifth round, they call like, hey, we're going to get you the fifth round. I'm like, cool, I'm waiting for it. And then the Buccaneers choose somebody else. All right, okay, cool. Hey, sixth round, we're going to get you. Okay, sixth round comes. I'm looking. Okay, no. And then like seventh round, they had 2 picks. I'm like, oh, for sure, I'm going to the seventh round. And then the coach calls me again. We're going to get you the next pick. They picked my teammate, Justin Finnessy. Like, geez, man. And the last pick, they didn't pick me, but like 15 minutes after the draft ended, I'm signed with them as what they call a priority free agent. I still got a signing bonus, all that fun stuff, but wasn't drafted. But the process to that, here's really what took place. Me and a SpongeBob watch. This is how this whole SpongeBob watch worked. So when I would get to the point of, I knew I had to go and prepare to play in the NFL, right? That's what it had to be. And I knew that when I get there, I'm in Oregon. They're in Florida training. I hadn't graduated, so I couldn't go down to Florida and practice, which means I couldn't get used to the temperature, the humidity, the heat, couldn't get used to it. So I had to find a way to get in shape to where when I showed up there, I could ball. And I had to do it in a way different climate. So I had this thing, it was called an environmental chamber in Oregon that I could go into and ride a bike for a couple hours, and it simulated the heat, humidity, and pretty much just everything, like the elevation. And then here's how me and a SpongeBob watch worked. I had a SpongeBob watch, and all it could do was count to 60. And it would just it's like out of like a cereal box. And this SpongeBob watch, I wish I could find. I think I lost it at some point. When that clock, we had a commitment. Me and that watch had an agreement, a commitment, which was if the clock says that I got to go at 60 seconds, I go at 60 seconds. If it says I got a 30-second break, I only got 30 seconds. And I started day one committed to it. My workout said, you got to run X amount of reps with, in this much time, you get this much rest and whatever it may be. And I had this thing to a T to where like that thing, when it said to go, I went and I never let it down. I never let the watch, not even a single rep, Peter. I never let the watch down for an entire, it was like a good 2 months of preparation. When I got to Florida, the strength coach was like, you are the most in shape person I've ever seen come to camp who didn't go through camp with us.
Wow.
I could run all day. I was never tired. I could sweat. I could roll. And it was because I'd never let the watch down. So me and old SpongeBob got it done.
So tell me, when you are in college, how did you not get sucked in by the temptation of the guy that is in shape, the guy, the parties, the fun, the women, all the temptations? Because you don't have structure. I mean, you're developing it. You're it. You're it. You are the first structure in your bloodline. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you not get sucked into all the other distractions of the world while you're in college?
Love.
Okay.
Serious, man. I mean, because of what I went through as a kid, I have a weird connection to a primary female in my life. I don't cheat, and I don't cheat not because of like only it's part of it's my faith. I'm a man of God. That's one piece of it, but also it's like I love Anthony, and I have this weird connection of like I don't ever want to feel bad or do bad, but also like I have a deep connection to the woman in my life. So my fiance, when I first got to college at 18, I proposed to her within the first like 6-7 months of being there. We've been together for like a couple of years. And then like we were doing a long distance thing. And I was like, I can't do a long distance thing. And I had her move up to school with me. Now she went to the school that was there. She went to Oregon, graduated summa cum laude with her master's. Like she's a beast, like 4.2 GPA. She's killing it. And she had a kid. We had a kid. So I think what kept me sane was one, the love I had for her. And I never wanted to hurt her or let her down because of the aspect with my mom, my real mom, but then also the love I had for my son. I realized when I had him, like I never had a fear. There was never an aspect of like, man, I'm a college kid, this athlete with a kid. Like, how do I do this? My mentality was like, I get to do for a kid something that was never done for me. Be a present, powerful, loving dad. So I was actually a father who played college sports. Father first, college athlete second. My coaches probably didn't like that as much, but I still got it done, man. And I was living in a way where like we had a crazy schedule, dude. Like I'd be up in the morning at 7 o'clock, back by 12, or most of my teammates wouldn't even start class till 12. I get back at 12. My wife would go to school, fiance at the time. She'd go to class. She'd come back at like 3. We'd literally exchange, hey, here's a kid, kiss, and take off. I'm at practice, lifting, 3 to 4, film. I'd get home after practice around like 8:39. She'd take night classes. She'd come back. We'd eat some food, go to bed, do it again for like 3 years.
So you both were very driven. Both of y'all were very driven.
Oh, very.
Okay.
Oh, she's very, yeah. She owns 2 businesses now. Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so you start playing NFL. You're reaching a dream.
Yeah.
When did things start to crumble?
It was April 8th or August 8th, 2008.
Okay.
Playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler. I've gone through ups and downs, crazy stories, man. It's like at times when I didn't think I was supposed to get the job, and like the Steelers, man. So the Steelers were my favorite team to play for. Redskins, I was there, and they cut me after I had a phenomenal preseason, and all of a sudden cut me, and nobody knows why. To this day, I couldn't tell you why. I led the team in like points and every tackles, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna let you go," and they kept my backup. It's weird. They must have just not liked me. Couldn't tell you. So I'm like, man, I don't want to do all this. And then the Steelers, I get this call, and the way the Steelers work, and it's every team. If there's a Tuesday, it's like the team's day off. The whole NFL's day off is Tuesday. They bring typically players in that put them through workouts so that one, they can sign somebody that they need, or if they want to sign somebody later, at least they know who's available. So they just bring a bunch of people in. So if you don't get a call by Monday to fly out to do a Tuesday workout, you don't get a workout that week. And so Tuesday hit, I didn't have a call. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go do a crazy workout so that I'm still in kind of shape for next week. So I go do a crazy workout. I come back home, I get in the shower. I get out of the shower, I got like 10 missed calls. So I call the one I recognize with one of my agents. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He goes, well, the Steelers want to fly you in. I'm like, Drew, man, I just got done with a crazy workout. My body is shot. Like, I can't run a 40 right now. He's like, do you want an effing job? I'm like, well, yes, I do want a job. So that was 4 o'clock-ish. I'm on a flight by 8:30 red eye. I mean, I packed up, got to the airport. I'm on a red eye. I land there at 6 in the morning there, 3 in the morning my time. Didn't get much sleep. We get I'm like sleeping in the limo they use to pick me up. And I get to the hotel to pick the other guy up. The other guy's rested. He's, fresh, everything. He also was my NFL Combine roommate. So in 2006, I had a roommate. The guy was 10 pounds heavier, a tenth of 40 faster, bench press like 12 more reps than me. Dude's a monster and looks just as in shape. I'm half asleep. And the guy says, just so you know, one of you after the workout staying here, one of you is going home. Interesting. I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't sound too promising. I'm half asleep. This dude, he got drafted 5th round. He's a draft pick. I'm like, on paper, this dude is way better than me. Anyway, so I'm like, all right. So for next 2 hours, I'm going from hospital to hospital. I'm sleeping on benches. I'm half asleep. I'm just not even focused there. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just wasting time. I'm going to go home. Can I just get in the plane and go home? I'm not going to beat this guy. We eventually get to the actual facility. It's like 12 o'clock. They say, hey, 12:20, be outside in the facility, the workout starts. And it was a weird little bubble of time because in my head, I was like, all right, well, I don't know what you got, Ant, but you're here. There could be thousands of other people here. Like my brain clicked on. I was like, you know what? Just show up with every single ounce of what you got. Now, you've done the work. You prepared. They flew you out. Like, of all the people you're here, show up. And I remember I just clicked the switch of like, let's go to work. And I got out there. I don't know what happened. It was a blur. I promise you. I can't remember any of the workout. I was half asleep. I get back. I get in the shower. And in my head, I'm still like, there's no way. Like, this guy's, he's a baller, right? There's no ways. I get out of the shower, still got a towel on. The guy walks up, says, hey, head upstairs. We're going to sign you.
Wow.
And I was like, ooh, right? So I get this job. And I'm like dead tired. I'm excited. I get to tell my wife. I go upstairs, meet Coach Tomlin, Mike Tomlin. I meet the GMs. I sign the contract, go downstairs, get my pads. Here's your locker. I'm like, cool. I finally get to rest and like take a nap, call my wife. They go, hey, practice starts in an hour because it was Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was it, man. And I finally got on the team, man. And it was the first team I got on where I was balling. I was playing well. I was like second string on special teams behind like 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗥𝗕𝗘. So I finally got to the point where like I was a guy in the squad. I was going to be in for the season. And in fact, like the off season, the special teams coach would call me and two other guys in. Two of them were already on the team from the year before. You don't call me in to waste your time, you know? Like, so I'm like, I got this. I'm gonna be in here. First preseason game, we're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm chasing someone for like a tackle, and I fall over a teammate, and I get up, and then the offensive lineman from the other team jumps on my back as I'm getting up, tears my left shoulder. Ends my season, ends the career. That was 2008. Pittsburgh Steelers that year won a Super Bowl against the Cardinals.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I went home. I didn't get a ring, and that's the end of my football career. So I had to go into life with like that kind of a W or a kind of an L, I mean.
Okay. So what happened to Anthony right there? Right there, because even your demeanor from you sharing your story to right now has completely shifted.
Yeah.
Okay? So how did you shift from
that? I didn't in that moment, man. I was going like a leaf in the wind. Because you got to think, at the time I didn't know my career was done. I thought it was a season. So I'm like, all right, season's done. And I went home and I had idle hands. So I built this gym. I started a gym. I was like, well, I can keep this running. Even if I leave, I can have people that can run this for me, right? Stupid decision. And so I start doing these workouts. And then the Buffalo Bills fly me out because I'm still like going back and forth. And then what ends up happening is I'm still kind of in a higher spirits because like I'm the NFL guy that owns a gym. I can get this done. And I really probably could. Yeah, so I'm going back and forth. So then what happens is I take off, I do a workout for the Bills, I come back, and then my agent calls me one day. It was like a morning. I don't remember what day of the week. It was a morning. He says, hey, Ant, Buffalo Bills want to sign you, but they want to put a waiver on your shoulder. Says what that means is if you go in there and put a waiver on, if your shoulder gets hurt again, nobody covers it. NFL doesn't cover it. The team won't cover it. You're pretty much left having to pay a couple $100,000 bill if you want to take care of your shoulder. He says, so then what happens is you may not have an arm you can use if, God forbid, something happens. You can't feed your family. You may not be able to work. You'd be on disability for the rest of your life until you paid for it. And he says, like, yeah, you have a choice. He says, this is what every contract from here on out is going to be like. So either you take this contract and you risk that, or it's time to hang your jersey up. And that was a choice. And I sat there, and I remember I was in the office of the gym, and I was like, Drew, man, I'm going to hang it up. I think it's the best decision. And that was when everything changed. Because that was like, I remember like crying. Because I mean, you got to realize it was mourning the death of something.
Sure.
It was the death of that previous Anthony. That was the death of the guy that went from this is from 14 years old. The moment that I had a sense of self-worth, this was the only thing that gave it to me for a long period of time. It was the game. It was what I could pour into that loved me back, that didn't love me back. It was an up and down journey. And I had lost that lover, we'll call it, right? That was over now. And so I didn't know who the hell I was. Like that was like, who is Anthony when he doesn't have football? Because all before that, I'm like the college athlete when I'm going back home. I'm the NFL athlete when I'm going back home. Now I'm just, you're just the guy trying to build this gym. You used to be something, but you're nothing now. And then I'm like, that's why I dug into the gym. And like, it was that process of up and down, man. But I lost all of me in that process.
So what happens to Anthony right there? How do you start sabotaging your life? What did you do?
Yeah, so I tried to get that sense of confidence back, right? Because I felt good about Anthony, the football player. How can I feel good about the next level? So I'm like, I'm gonna build a gym. I'm gonna be world renowned. I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna be the name. And then I go and open in my hometown. I'm gonna give back to the community. And so I started building. And that's where I was at the gym, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., living there. And my wife, she'd been kind of at a distance the entire time. When I was in the NFL, she wasn't really living with me. So like, she's like, I got my husband back now, but I'm not back. I'm down the street. I mean, I might as well have been, across the country as far as she was concerned, because I was never home. So like, she had needs. Then we had 2 more kids 9 months in. And so she's at home now with a 4-year-old. I think it was like 4-ish. Then I had twins that were, brand new babies. And she has no husband to help her. Just sit at the house. Bills are piling up. But the gym's not making money, by the way. We're not making money. 9 months in, I get served with a letter from the landlord to evict me that almost put me in a position of bankruptcy. I navigated it in a weird turn of events of getting a coach, getting a lot of insight, and doing some stuff that I was not used to doing, and making asks I was not used to asking. But I turned it around. But then now I'm like in a situation where my wife has an affair, which kills my heart, because the connection I have to that primary female is now like shredded. I felt like in the separation between me and her, it pulled the family apart. And I was subjecting my children to a childhood like mine, of no present father, that kind of thing. And that scared me. The business wasn't doing well, so I didn't even want to go there. But on top of that, imagine having to go to a place and be the joy for somebody when you have no joy to give. So I would spend these days.
Wow, that's powerful.
It sucked. It was like, I had nothing. Because this thing at home, and like, so I had to come and be smiling happy. By the end of the day, man, I would get in my car and like, I wouldn't have the energy to like drive home. And I lived like less than a mile away. I was just done. And then at the same time, like, I still am trying, like, I'm reeling. I can't watch football because I don't want to be shown, the thing that I could have still been doing, kind of. And dude, it was a very dark, unhappy place. And I was eating garbage food. Now I'm out of shape. So looking in the mirror, I'm not even the guy that, that I used to be. And so, man, that was it. I remember I was watching this UFC fight one night, and it was all my buddies were there, my buddy Derek's house. And I'm sitting there on a UFC, like this little thing, in this couch. And I'm sitting there watching it. After 3 hours, apparently I didn't say a word to anybody. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. I just sat there staring at the screen. I got up and walked out. It was like this fog I was in. And I'd been in the fog for a few, like, probably months, just dead tired. My best friend Jason walks outside, says, "Ant, man," and this is seriously how it went. He says, "Ant, I see you are not you, bro." Like, he's like, "You need to realize, I don't know what's going on, but like, this is your reality." So this is your reality. And those words, like, they slammed on my chest, man, like a big rig hitting me. I got in my car, and I was seriously in a place. I was like, I could not stop the tears from coming. It's a different kind of pain. Like, I found that the brain can't always distinguish between emotional and physical pain sometimes when it gets to be heavy. And this was a pain I could feel. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't control my body. And I just wanted it all to stop. I was like, I want this to stop. And so I sent a text to my friends and family. And I genuinely said, "Please tell my kids who their father was." And I hit the road, drove out of town. It was late enough to where no stores were open that sold rat poison, which is what I was trying to find. And thankfully I got to a point an hour out of town where I just sat in my car. And it was in Stockton, California, about an hour-ish. Stockton, I was sitting at a gas station. I just kind of sat there. And then like little by little, the feeling kind of dissipated, because there's an immediate rush at first, and it kind of subsided. And I just sat there, just stuck. And the police ended up coming, and they're, like, "Are you okay?" And I'd been able to play it off. I was like, "Oh, I'm fine. My wife, we're divorced or getting divorced. And I don't know, she's just crazy." And so they let me go home. So I drive home, and I pull up to my house. And there's like 30 people outside of my house. All had been around town looking for me. Like friends, family, clients, like the most like overwhelming shame I'd felt probably my entire life, to know that many people had to see me at my weakest point. And that was a really and this day I feel like the shame of that. But the reality was it got there because like I wasn't talking to anybody. Nobody knows. Like I was a big NFL guy, big black, strong NFL player. Like, you don't tell people your feelings. That's not what you're taught to do. Like, you're the alpha, and so for me, like, I'm in a situation where the curtains have been pulled back. And because I didn't pull them back earlier, that's why I went that dark. I didn't have deep conversations. And so I remember like this, I pull up and I know how to handle it. A couple of days later, I was sitting in my office. I kind of got back to work, kind of like, oh, it didn't happen. And one of my buddies pulls me their back. I played high school football with him, good buddy now, just a friend. And he says, hey, man, when I found out we're all looking for you, he's like, I physically threw up in my toilet. He's like, I thought I had lost a hero.
Wow.
Very weird to hear from a friend. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, nobody says anything to you. He says, but we've been around since we've known you. Like, we know what you went through. Like, you're an inspiration to a lot of people, man, more than you even know. And he's like, but you can't do that again. I was like, no, never. And it was this thought where a seed got planted. And the seed was, well, all this stuff in my life hadn't made any sense. All the craziness, all the stuff that was negative, like, why Anthony? And as a kid, I used to cry praying to God, like, why me, God? Why are you doing this to my life? Why are my mom not here? Why am I with these people? Why are these people beating me? Why? And so in this moment, I had this thought of, like, if I'd been able to help people accidentally, by just living my life in a positive light in some way, not being a statistic on accident, like, what if I did it on purpose? It's like, this is just a seed. Like, what if I did it on purpose? And I kind of said it there because I was in no place to be teaching people how to be happy, obviously. I was trying to figure it out myself. But what ended up happening was I kind of got into this realm of, like, I just got to get back to work. And that's where I was in a fog. I wasn't in love with the work anymore. I'm now doing custody battles with my wife in the gym and trying to figure things out. I'm sleeping around because now I'm divorced. And I'm trying to find that connection again. So I'm steering clear of my faith. And it's a really dark place. And then my mom passed. And that was the moment that was really a pivotal one, because, like, it was seriously, it was me on my mom's right side, my dad and my grandma on her left side, and us watching the heart rate monitor as, like, the beeps went from, a high level to just smaller until they were just elongated and just short breaths. And we literally watched my mom inhale and exhale. And then that was her final breath. It was a very, like, a heavy moment. And it was like one where on one side, like, there's a sense of peace, because she's at peace, no more pain. She'd been hurting for 17 years. And then the other side of it was like, man, like, how can I do what I'm doing and not be, like, living a full life? Like, how can I not be seeking potential? She already gave me the opportunity to by loving me. Like, how can I not go farther and do more? And then on top of that, one of the big things for me was, like, I had to watch this person not be able to physically fulfill their potential, to do what they were, like, she used to, like, single leg water ski, and she would jump around and make dumb fart jokes. Like, she was just a joyous, loving person. And, like, it was all taken from her. So I'm like, I can't not do something that honors her. I seriously was like, I can't not do something that doesn't honor my mom. And one of the big things that she had that I looked at was, like, she unconditionally loved non-blood related people, me. She didn't have to do anything for me. Like, unconditionally loved me, dude. When I was a kid, I was so, like, the first week there, I was breaking lamps. I was always in trouble. I was beating kids up in school. Like, I was always in trouble. I was, like, the one special kid. Like, if you don't get in trouble, you get a candy bar. I had this thing in second grade. If I could not get in trouble for the day, I'd get a candy bar, a full candy bar. I never got a candy bar the whole year. Like, never. And she put up with it. So I was like, this woman unconditionally loved me. So what if I unconditionally love on the world? What if I turn and make this seed that was planted years ago? What if I grow the seed? What if I find ways to grow from it? And that's what I've turned into this we do now.
Let's recap. You lose your NFL career.
Yeah.
Your wife has an affair.
Yeah.
You contemplate suicide.
Yeah.
And you lose your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And your business is going bankrupt.
Damn near, yeah.
How can you possibly not want to give up? How can you not? I mean, you had statistically every reason to, right? Every distance.
Oh yeah.
But you had to dig deep within you to be able to come out and survive and become who you are today. And there you become the speaker, the author, and the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us
how. This is going to be the one that actually everybody can do. So realistically, there's a process to it, right? And this is something I've spent the last 6 years unpacking and mastering the explanation of it. I've lived it, right? But I needed to make sure psychology and neuroscience fit and it makes sense and process. But here's the gist of a simple, basic metaphor. What I realized was I had reached the ability of my programming. Now, this is where the identity comes into play. If you think about computers, we're on computers now. I have a computer I'm looking at, and every once in a while you get the little thing that pops up and it says, ding, you want to update your computer? I'm like, no, I don't want to update the computer. Leave me alone. I got stuff to do. I don't want to deal with the pain and frustration of waiting for this to update, download, and upload. So I snooze it. And then I go to work. I keep doing my thing. And then another one comes up. You sure you don't want to? No. And after a while of doing that, well, now the program stopped working. My Zoom starts getting glitchy and it starts crashing, or I can't get my browser to load, or I got to clear the cache a lot, or it's not working. And then after a while you do that, you get that spinning wheel of death, like all of a sudden, like it's, and then all of a sudden the computer won't turn on. You got to open it in safe mode. You can't use the full functionality, but you can kind of get some things done. And then you eventually go, damn it, I got to update the computer. So you hit the button, you pull away, you sit back and you wait for this thing to get done. But then when it comes and gets done, it's updated. Now it runs smooth and fast, operational, bang, 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 you're good. Oh, cool, I'm doing it, right? Humans are the same way, and I was the same way. In a sense of like the hardware is our body. Every day we wake up in a new body, fresh new day, let's go to work. But some of us are operating off like Windows 95, like things that happened as a kid, things that happened in previous relationships, the job that I lost. That's what we're doing all day long. And what happens is the updates are like, hey, you need to be better as a husband. Snooze that. Hey, you need to take care of your body. Snooze that. You need to be better in your business. Snooze that. And the programs, they're our career. It's our jobs. It's our relationships. It's our self-worth. It's everything. Those are the programs, and those things start bogging down. For me, that had bogged down. The updates had come in. Anthony, stay at home more often. No, I got to do the work. Hey, play with your kids more. No, I got to make this money. Hey, take care of yourself. No, I'm a gym owner. I'll put some sweaters on. I own a gym. It's okay. Like, hey, you got to be, more clear and communicate with your staff. Like, no, I got to do my thing. And all the programs started crashing. My marriage fell apart. The business fell apart. My body got out of shape. And what I ended up doing was going through this whole flow. And when that moment hit that my mom passed away, it was kind of in that same bubble that I was met with this opportunity where the gym was struggling, but I got this $250,000 contract that was like $220,000 of profit. And it was like what I would make four times what I'd make for a year of work at the gym. On top of that, I had this moment where the gym lease was up. I didn't have to redo the gym if I didn't want to, and I wouldn't be liable for anything. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, like I had this feeling of like, I want to do something more. And what I ran into was this crash. It was 2015, I want to say New Year's Eve, 2015. And I had taken a trip to Russia for some consulting contracts, whatnot. And I come back and I met this girl and I had flown her out, didn't speak English. It was, Playboy style. Like, yeah, I got this foreign girl, which you typically, and it was stupid. And then I woke up the next morning and I looked at her like it was all sexual and physical. She couldn't communicate with me. I couldn't talk to her. My kids weren't there. And I got this overwhelming feeling of shame. Not because of her as a person. She was a good person, but like I was not living in the realm of what my mom would be proud of, my kids would be proud of, I was proud of. I'm like, this is not the guy that I want my children to emulate or see. And I pulled away. I hit the update button, man, because everything had crashed. Obviously, the relationship stuff was crashed. And the business, most people don't know, but this time the business in of itself wasn't doing well. Like I'd made that money, but I was eating through the money. I wasn't working the same way. It was weird. And I was like, I got to pull away. And what I did is I cut all women off. I literally talked to no women for like 3 months. They didn't even talk. I'd sit in this wall, like this room in my living room, and a brown wall across from the couch. And I would stare at the wall. And this was me doing my downloading process. I would just ask, what in the world is wrong with you, man? Of all these things going on, you're the common denominator. It's your business, it's your relationships, it's your kids, it's your body. What's going on? And I would sit there and eat the questions, man. And I would spend time not distracting myself with, girls and drinking. And I sat there, I unpacked, I was like, that's what it is. And so I found myself having a lot of hard conversations to my ex-wife, like understanding that, hey, you had the affair and it was horrible, but you didn't get to the point of feeling like you needed to make a decision like that by yourself. Had I been a present husband, you wouldn't feel the need to have to fulfill a need, the kids, like I needed to be a better dad and I needed to own that, like the gym, I need to let people know, like, I am not perfect at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I need more help. And even the guy that my wife had an affair with, I went and had a conversation with that guy. Like I squared up all these parts of my life that felt like they were off. And that was me updating it, downloaded. And then I installed these different conversations to update the software. And I showed back up in a different light. And so
where did you learn how to do that? What taught you to do that? Where did you have that awakening to teach you to do that?
Honestly, it was just sheer, this might be just dumb luck. I read books. Like, I've been reading books, but there was no process in a book for this. It wasn't like someone said, oh, go sit on the couch and stare at the wall and ask yourself questions.
No. And I get that. And a lot of it, I've been sober for almost 20 years, and I got sober through a 12-step program. So there's a process there where you basically tear yourself down and build yourself apart through the 12-step program. And there's an amends process. There's actually a process where you go and make amends to people that you have hurt, okay? And you make restitution, and you do all that kinds of stuff. But there's a process. It's a 12-step program. It takes you through that. It teaches you how to do that. So you develop your own system. You came up with this. This was your own internal therapy.
Yeah, it was what it was, man. What's funny is maybe a year later, I went to a landmark event, like a landmark forum, they call it.
Sure.
And they were asking me to do all this stuff. And I was like, I already did this. It took me 2 years. Would have been nice to do it in 2 days, right? Like you guys do it. But I was like, I did it in 2 years. And they're like, no, you can't do it unless you're here. I'm like, I don't know how. Maybe I accidentally figured it out. But a lot of the drive was, I don't like how this feels. And I got to change something. I realized I do got to change something in order for anything to change. And that was the catalyst. There wasn't anything, there was no process. I wasn't following some guidebook. I was just trying to be a human, operating like a human to make my life better. I don't like having gray areas or negativity or having negative communication with human beings. I don't have any enemies. Scratch that. There's one person, if I an enemy, one person that we're not on good terms, because I'm good at cutting people off and moving them along, and I haven't revisited that conversation. But one in my entire life I have like that.
Anthony, one of the reasons I'm so fascinated with your story, because, there has been a plethora of coaches, entrepreneurs, influencers, a whole bunch of people through social media that want to teach you how to shift and change and become something they're not.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Something they're not. And I really have a tremendous appreciation for people that are able to understand and are able to relate to stories based on true experiences. So you have actually done that. We're talking about essential and non-essential personnel right now, where there's going to be a lot of non-essential influencers and a lot of non-essential coaches and a lot of non-essential people, because they have not really had the experience and background to be able to relate to these types of stories. And I really do believe that a lot of what you do, a lot of what I do, is something that we are truly connected with our energy and the energy of the universe, and we're able to be guided to do what we think is right to do, because that's what we innately know that is the right thing to do. That's the reason I dug in a little bit deeper into that question. So tell us about your program. How did you develop your program? Where did that program come from? And how can that program today, in the time that we're living, with the pandemic, with the fear of people, with the changes, after this is over, our world is not going to be the same.
Never. No.
People will never be the same again. And there's still going to be a process. There's going to be PTSD. There's going to be people that are going to have a hard time reintegrating themselves into society. So more than ever, they're going to need tools to be able to overcome some of these challenges. So tell us about your program and how this can help the community.
Yeah, man, it's been amazing to see what it's done in these times for my current clients. What's funny is at the end of the day, I don't think normal is good. Like what our normal was, everyone's like, go back to normal. That wasn't working. Like that was not. And if you think about it, our normal got everybody sick. Like that's
absolutely
not good. Yeah, it's like that's not what we want. So for me, what I look at is I teach people how to shift in shifting times. That's really what it is I do, right? It's like that's what I did in my life. Like you can shift proactively or reactively. A lot of us are all reactively shifting right now. And so what I focus on primarily is when I say upgrade, how you operate, I teach people how to do what I did. Now, a lot of people are in situations where like I'm constantly updating every day. My wife comes in like, you need to be better at this. All right, I'll do it. I don't snooze things anymore. And so when I go through a process, it's based on 3 stages. I call it the Shift Schematic. It's the guidebook, the flow of how we take people from a place of I'm lost or I'm unclear or I can't figure out why I can't get X amount, usually income, impact, or increased notoriety. I can't figure out how to do it. And so what I do is I walk them through a process. Here's what most people do. They go and start work on stuff. Read this book, do this thing, let's go to work, right? And what they do is they do all this work and they end up finding out they're running on a treadmill, getting dead tired, making no progress. Years ago, I heard a pastor of mine say, he said, it's kind of like people will climb this ladder and they'll go up this ladder all the way to the top, huffing and puffing, get up there and then look around and say, oh man, the ladder was leaned against the wrong building. Wasting time. And so what I do is I go, before we go to the shift stage, which is where we do the work, let's go to the C stage. And the C stage sees two things. One, it sees really why you're stuck. And usually it's the things that you don't want to accept. For me, I had to accept the reason my relationship failed was because I was not the best husband. I didn't want to see that because that sucks to see, because then you have to take ownership of like, all right, as much as this thing sucked, I am part of how it happened. And it comes with a little bit of pain. So I get people to see what they really need to work on, but then also people create more hopeful visions. I want you to see where you can go. I call it dreaming at full speed. Like, I need you to get to the point where you create this vision and dream to where it's like, if you think about whenever you have dreams, like I'm sure you get a bunch of ideas like me, and those things, they feel like, oh, like a heart pumping, nice Ferrari drop top driving down the freeway in the desert, just, like I feel great, right? Foot to the floor, like just moving. But then what happens if you're driving that, all of a sudden, like a speed bump comes in a way, oh, you got to slow down, you got to go around it, then you get, it's not that same rush. And for people, dreams are the same way. But what they do is say, it's an amazing, what if I could do that? But, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. What if they laugh at me? What if I lose face? Like, oh, and so the speed bumps go in. So for me, I'm like, we got to see, one, why you're stuck, really, the honest reasons, and two, see where you can go to create hope to drive your why, like let's get towards something. Then we can go to the shift, and the shift part is unique. And I'm gonna give you guys the gold. I'm gonna give you the gold right now, but just know there's a lot of processes and stages to go through, but there's 4 essential levels. There's a design, develop, deploy, and then a debrief. So what I do is I help them design and architect what's called an ideal identity. It goes through your 6 core drivers of your identity. I want to figure out what you want to show up as. Like, where do you want to put the work into a space to know that that's you one day, like I talked about as a kid. Then I want to develop a plan around what are the actions I got to take to do that. If I design it, I got to develop a plan to make it come into life. Then we deploy it into the world. And when we get deployed into the world, this is where people go out, and usually life smacks them in the face and it's like, you suck. You're like, oh, I feel bad. And we tuck tail and run. And then what happens is, as opposed to reinvesting and going back in that same space, we find reasons to not have to go there again because it hurts. And I don't want to get hit in the face again. And I don't want to be met with the fact that I suck at that thing. So I procrastinate, I make excuses, or I chase a new shiny object. For me, I say, look, you wanted that goal, you got there. Yeah, it sucked, but you deployed, you came back from the war of life. And most people, they don't realize that in that moment is where all the gold is. What can help it be easier next time? So we debrief. Hey, what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? What did you learn? What's the lesson? Now we can go back and we can redesign, redevelop a plan, redeploy. And yes, you go back out and it's like, maybe it was a 10 of pain before, but now it's a 9. And then it's a 6, and then it's a 2, and then it's a 0. But what's crazy is when it goes to 0, you're not operating from a space of like, oh, cool, it just doesn't hurt anymore. You operate from joy. That thing that you did before, it scared and overwhelmed you. Now you find joy in doing it. And here's the beauty of it. Earlier, we talked about what you create creates you. Every step of the way you're creating and you're investing. And as an investment-based human, I know you invest, you want a return on your money. I want a return on the investment. As I put this time in, the investment return is I build that confidence. I know this is me. The 10,000th rep, the 10,000th, maybe I get the first rep, like I'm not a weightlifter. 10,000 reps later, I'm a weightlifter. It's what I do. Like, you own it. And so for me, the process is going and taking people through multiple levels to understand the psychology, putting a plan into place and acting on it to shift their identity to where they're no longer the person who has this, what I call an identity gap of, I'm over here trying to do what that person does. No. I am that person now. I'll battle for that person. I fight for that person. It becomes what I call effortless effort. Get that Midas touch. Well, like, I'm sure you got people that know you are like, man, everything Peter touches, that dude turns to gold. Like, I don't know what it is about him. It's who I am, man. It's just what I do. Like, how do you not do this? Like, it overwhelms you. So I do on Tuesday morning. And then we go to the sustain stage. Once that's done, now it's like, how do you stay on that track? How do you have a drive and make sure you're going in the right direction? Don't take U-turns. How do I get a hive of people around me? Because I want to share life the way it's created, to have a hive of great human beings. And how do I thrive? How do I create something so great that I want to press on and give it to more people? which then creates new spaces of where I have to go back to the beginning and see what I have to do to create that next tier. And the whole process continues over and over. But once you understand the flow of it, it becomes effortless effort. It's like, I literally say, success is your second nature. It's what I do. I just succeed.
Success is your second nature. I love that. Success is your second nature. Anthony, where can people find you today?
You can find me on Instagram at Anthony Trucks. It's where I hang out all day, every day for the most part. And then AnthonyTrucks.com. It's my website.
And where can they find more about the courses and your coaching sessions?
Yeah, so you can, if you go to AnthonyTrucks.com, there's a program section there. But one good thing that gives people the intro, if you go to sloworgo.co, it gives you a chance to figure out if you have a slow identity or a go identity, and it's a quadrant based. So you can see you're one of 4 types of people. And if you're a go opportunity or go identity, there's 5 levels of that. So someone can go to sloworgo.co, they'll figure a lot out about themselves and what they need to do to shift to be able to actually reach their full potential.
Anthony, the reality is that each and every day of our lives, we have pandemics, we have viruses, we are faced with challenges and adversity in our lives. This is nothing new. What happens is that we are experiencing something as a universe collectively and together. It is not any different than having a loss in the family, than losing a job, than losing an NFL career. It is only focused and magnified today because we are going through it collectively and in the process of unification. But the world will continue to operate and will continue to change and will continue to give us challenges. I really believe that the people that will survive and thrive in the future would be people that really take a look at themselves and see how they are contributing, what impact they're making in the world, and how they are growing individually. You know, this is not a time to manage. This is a time to lead. It's a time to lead individually, to protect our families, our children, our communities, our businesses, and the universe. This is not a time to be a solopreneur. This is time to integrate ourselves into society and become something greater than ourselves. And thank you so much for being part of our community. Thank you for sharing your incredible story, your wisdom, and your humility with us. I appreciate you very so much. And stay tuned for the episode with Anthony Trucks, the incredible Anthony Trucks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Coming Clean podcast. Make sure to join Peter and his next guest on a brand new episode as we continue changing and impacting lives across the world. Share this episode with a friend, follow, subscribe, and leave a review.
Boy, I had to get it fast. Hit a dash in my position, you would never last.